All right, please be seated. State your next witness.
Matt Prelude.
All right. Mr. Steed, are you his counsel?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
If you want, you can come up here.
I'm fine, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Very well.
State your name, Mr. Court, please.
Mac Prelow,
And where are you from, Mr. Prelude?
Fort Worth, Texas,
Where you currently reside?
in Nashville, Tennessee on Vanderbilt's campus.
Okay. Are you a student there?
Yes, I am.
What are you majoring in?
Economics.
And what year are you now?
I'm a junior currently.
Where were you living June the 23rd of 2013?
I lived in the Gillette dorms on Vanderbilt's campus.
How old were you then?
I was 18 years old,
And how long had you been on the campus?
2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. And were you a member of the football team?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. And were you a walk-on or a scholarship athlete?
I was a walk-on.
Preferred walk-on?
I was a preferred walk-on, yes, sir.
What position did you play?
I was a long snapper and I also played a little linebacker.
Okay. Who was your roommate?
I was assigned to live with Brandon Vandenburg.
And had you known Mr. Vandenburg prior to becoming his roommate?
No, sir, I met him the day I moved in.
And was he the same age as you were?
No, he was a junior college transfer, so somewhere around 2 years older than me.
Okay.
Could you lift that mic up just a little bit? There you go.
And did you and Mr. Vandenburg hang out together much?
No, sir, not a whole lot.
Do you remember the Saturday night of June 22nd to the early morning hours of June 23rd?
Yes, I do.
What had you been doing that night?
That night, I was in the Gillette dorms all night. I was on the 6th floor with one of my friends, Nathan Marcus, up there in his room. I had 2 16-ounce beers I had drinking that night before going to bed.
Okay. Were you legal to drink at the time?
No, sir, I was not.
Do you recall approximately what time you may have gotten into bed?
I believe it was sometime around or after midnight.
And did something wake you up?
Yes, I was awoken in the early morning hours for the lights turning on.
And where was your bed located in the room?
I was in an upper bunk bed in the corner of the room on the top bunk.
Okay. And you said something woke you up. Do you recall what that was that woke you up?
Yes, it was the lights turning on. The lights turned on in the early morning hours sometime while I was fast asleep.
Okay. And did you look down?
Yes, when I woke up, I looked up and I saw 4 other football players on the team, my roommate Brandon Vandenburg and 3 others, who I would later learned to be Brandon Banks, Cory Batey, and Tip McKenzie. I also looked down on the ground and I saw a woman on the ground.
Okay, and you say on the ground, did you recognize the woman or know her at all?
I did not recognize the woman, no, sir.
And how was she laying when you observed her?
She was face down on the ground.
You say ground, but you actually mean floor.
On the floor of the dorm room, yes, sir.
And how would you describe the noise in the room after you were awakened?
Yes, sir. After I was awakened, I was half asleep and I rolled back over, not sure what was going on. I heard sexual things going on. As I remember, I heard people use the F word referring to having sex with this woman. I heard one person, Brandon Vandenburg, refer to not being able to get an erection due to the use of cocaine. I also heard pornography playing in the background. I heard a little bit of laughter here and there, but that was about what I heard.
Could you tell who was using the F word?
No, sir, I could not. I heard it multiple times, I believe.
So you heard it said multiple times?
Yes, sir.
You said you heard pornography playing at one time. Could you tell where that was coming from?
Yes, sir. It was down to the left of me, either on a desk. It sounded like it was coming from a laptop. Down to the left under me as I was on the top bunk.
Okay. And can you describe what, if any, sound or movement you observed from this woman any time she was in your room?
I only saw her at the beginning, right when they came in. I saw her on the ground, and then the only time I saw her was when I realized there was nobody else in the room, and I got up and left as soon as I could, and I never heard anything. I just saw her still.
Okay. Did she appear to be conscious to you?
No, sir.
And what did you do when you left?
When I left, I jumped out of my bed, grabbed my phone, wallet, keys, and I went straight back out of the 6th floor to my friend's room on the 6th floor, Nathan Marcus's room.
Okay. Did you see other people out in the hallways you exited?
I did. There was multiple people in the hallways. I specifically remember seeing Chris Boyd going through on that floor we were on, and then other than that, I saw nobody until I got up to the 6th floor.
And where was the young woman you say when you left?
She was in Brandon's bed, under me and to the left.
And was that the only time that you left your bed during this incident, was to leave
Yes, sir.
the room? Okay. Did you report this to anybody?
No, sir.
Why not?
At the time, I was scared. I didn't see anything. I wasn't sure exactly what happened down there, but I was scared. I told Nathan right when I got to the room, to an extent, what happened. I'm not sure exactly what I told him, but he was the only person at the time who I told.
You feel today you probably should have reported it to somebody?
Absolutely. As I said at the time, I was an 18-year-old walk-on football player. I wish I would have said something, and now I feel like I would have made a more mature decision to do so.
Were there condoms kept in the room?
Yes, sir, there were.
And who did they belong to?
Brandon Vandenburg.
And then what time did you return to the room?
I came back around noon the next day.
Was anyone there at that time?
There was not.
And did you do anything to the room at that time?
Yes, sir, I cleaned the room. There was some vomit on the floor, and I went on and cleaned the room.
And did you receive a text later that day from Mr. Vandenburg?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what did he request you do?
He asked if I could leave the room for a period of time so he could be with another girl.
Did you comply with that?
Yes, sir. I was not in the room.
Say when you cleaned the room, what did you do to the room to clean it?
I cleaned the floor of the room with a Swiffer mop, just to get rid of the vomit and whatnot, what else was on the floor.
After this incident happened, did you have occasion to see Mr. Banks, Mr. Batey, and Mr. McKenzie again?
Yes, sir. I saw him in the following days after I spoke with Detective Mayo leaving the Gillette dorms. I saw them outside.
And what, if anything, was said to you?
Brandon Banks just asked if I could help him out, and I just said okay and walked off, kind of shrugged it off.
And if your semen was found on a green towel in your room, could you explain to the jury how it might have gotten there?
Yes, sir. As embarrassing as this talk about, it's possible I masturbated on a towel before or after the incident, and it could have very well been on that towel.
And later when the police came and searched your room, did you consent to that?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. But after the police did come, what did your father do?
He hired a lawyer.
Okay. And then prior to coming in to talk to the police about it, or the district attorney's office about it, did you sign a document?
Yes, I signed a use immunity agreement.
Okay. What did you understand that to be?
I understood it so I could tell the truth without it being used against me in any way.
Okay. In court, your
Right.
statement could not be used against you, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have anything to worry about?
No, sir.
You realize that's not in effect today, obviously. It's not an immunity agreement, it's a use immunity agreement.
Yes, sir, I understand that.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
All right, Cross?
Hi, Mr. Prelude.
Hi.
Did you give a interview to the Metro Police Department?
Yes, I believe I did. I gave
Okay.
multiple interviews.
You gave multiple interviews?
One to Vanderbilt, one to the Metro Police, and then with the prosecutors as well.
Okay. And did you give an interview on July the 25th, 2013?
I'm not sure exactly what the date is, but if that's when it was, sometime around that time, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And let's start. You mentioned that when you were woke up when the lights were cut on. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. Do you remember in your previous interview that you had stated that the lights were off? Do you remember that at all?
To my remembering, the lights were on and off throughout the night. I was awakened by them turning on, but at some point they're off as well. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were roommates with Mr. Vandenburg, correct?
Sorry, roommates?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay. And how long had you all been roommates?
We'll let Mike a little closer too, because it's not picking up.
Okay. And how long had you all been roommates?
Just since I got on campus in early June, so 2 to 3 weeks before the incident, I believe.
Are you currently still playing on the football team?
No, ma'am, I'm not.
When did you stop playing on the football team?
About 2 years ago, February the next year.
And at the time, did you know Mr. Batey?
No, ma'am, I did not.
So when the young man came into the room, you didn't know Mr. Batey?
I recognized him as a football player, as we had been in the same workout room together, but I didn't know his name. No, ma'am.
Okay. And did you tell the police in your interview that you did not know who they were at all at that time?
That's what I told, I believe. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what time did you eventually go to sleep while all of this was going on?
I was in and out of sleep, I believe. I tried just to block it out and not see anything, not be a part of it is all.
Do you remember when you fell asleep during any of this? Or how long after they had come into the room did you fall asleep?
I don't remember when. No, ma'am.
Okay. And how long were you up? What's the longest period of time that you were up during this incident?
Just as in being awake?
Yes.
I'm not sure. Minutes at a time. As I said, I was dead asleep when they came in at first, and throughout it I was awake, possibly asleep for a little bit. I'm not sure though.
Okay. And were you also awake when the other football players came into the room, Mr. Boyd and Retta?
No, ma'am. I didn't see any other football players in the room.
Okay. And were you ever in the room along with Miss Lackey?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay. And do you know for what amount of time?
I do not.
Okay. After you woke up and you noticed that she was in the bottom bunk, how long before you left out and went to Mr. Marcus's room?
Immediately. When I realized there was nobody in the room, I got up and left.
Okay. Do you remember what you were wearing when you went to Mr. Marcus's room?
Nothing but boxers, I believe.
And did you take anything else with you when you went up to Mr. Marcus's room?
I believe I took my phone, wallet, and keys. To my remembering, grabbed them off my desk.
And you mentioned that you had cleaned the vomit off the floor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you used a Swiffer, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And vomit was also on a tub in the room, is that right?
That's right. It was on a cooler of mine.
A cooler of yours, so that belonged to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you had also mentioned that you may have some DNA on the towel in the room?
Right.
Okay. Was that your towel that had, which towel had you used?
I'm not sure. I don't know which towel I would have used at the time.
At the time, there was a green towel on the hook. Would you agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
And there was also a white towel on the hook. Would you agree with that?
To my understanding, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And which towel was yours?
I don't remember.
Okay. So, if you ever masturbated, you feel it's okay to use Mr. Vandenburg's towel? You just use whichever towel?
No, ma'am. I don't remember which towel I used or where it was.
Okay. Just one moment, Your Honor, please. The following day, did you ever ask Mr. Vandenburg if everything was okay in the room?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And was that before or after you cleaned the vomit?
I don't remember when exactly it was.
Okay. And do you remember what time that you actually went back to your room?
I think it was around midday, sometime around noon.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Prelude, do you remember testifying in January of 2015 about this same incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you remember testifying that the towel that you used to masturbate on was not your towel?
If that's what I said, then
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
And you said that it was Mr. Vandenburg's towel at that time,
All right.
which was the green towel. Would you
Okay.
agree with that?
Yes, ma'am, if that's what I said,
Okay.
that's true.
And during this incident, well, while you were in the room, did you ever see Mr. Batey doing anything?
No, ma'am, I never saw anything.
Okay. I have no further questions, Mr. Prelude.
All right, read it right. Thank you, sir. You excuse me. Next witness. Is she the same Julia Hooper fingerprint expert?
Yes.
I thought she had retired a long time ago. She didn't retire.
Same thing about me.
I used to cross-examine her years ago.
She started when she was 10.
Well, she's an expert in fingerprint, latent and patent fingerprints. Would you stipulate that she's an expert in fingerprint identification, counsel?
Sorry.
Would you stipulate that Julia Hooper is an expert in fingerprint identification?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
I think we'll leave exhibit number 25 now.
All right.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
State your name for the court, please.
Julia Hooper.
And how are you employed?
You'll need a little bit closer to that mic.
How are you employed, please?
I'm employed by the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department Crime Laboratory.
Okay. I'm going to ask you how long you worked with the police department without telling your age.
I began in 1975.
And you've had specific training in fingerprint analysis, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I
You
have.
testified numerous times as an expert.
Yes, sir, I
And
have.
they've agreed to stipulate that you're a fingerprint expert.
Okay.
I guess just as a jury, you are also certified, is that correct? Fully
Yes, sir.
certified?
Yes, sir, I am.
And what is a fingerprint? What causes you to leave a fingerprint?
Well, a fingerprint is a reproduction of the characteristics and the patterns on the undersides of our fingers. What causes a fingerprint is the skin that's on the undersides of our hands and even our feet. It's a very different kind of skin than the skin that's on the rest of our body. The skin on most of our body is a smooth skin, sometimes with hair, but on the undersides of our hands and our feet, we have a skin called friction ridge skin that's more of a corrugated type skin, similar to the treads of a tire. There's raised strips of skin separated by furrows. If you were to look at those friction ridges on your hands, you would see that the ridges don't run from side to side in a continuous line, but rather they're broken and they have ending points. They have patterns, you can see loops and whorls. It's that information that's the identifying characteristics in a fingerprint. So we record a fingerprint, we record that information that's on the undersides of our fingers and our feet by applying many times a thin coat of printer's ink, and we'll roll the finger nail to nail to capture that information. That's one type of print that we collect. And we refer to that as a known print because we know the individual we're obtaining that print from. Most of the time, those prints are a set of the 10 fingers. Sometimes we collect the palms of the individual because they're unique also. A second type of fingerprint we refer to as a latent fingerprint, from the Latin word which means hidden. And these are the prints that most often for us are the prints that come from crime scenes. They're left inadvertently, they're chance prints when a person's hand comes in contact with the surface. And the transfer medium for those prints is the perspiration and the oils that are on the ends of the fingers. So when they touch a surface, it leaves a print. So both fingerprints are the same in that they both bear unique identifying characteristics. They are different, the known print from the latent print, in that the known print we take under controlled conditions. We actually hold a subject's hand so we can control the pressure while we're collecting those prints. The prints from crime scenes, the chance prints, are just inadvertent touches, and many times they're on dirty surfaces or non-protected surfaces. They have to be developed to be visible. You'll see latent prints sometimes on your rearview mirror or on your storm doors. Those prints, that's a latent, but it has to be developed with powder or chemicals to be seen. So really there's two types of prints when we talk about fingerprints.
Okay. And are fingerprints fragile in nature?
Latent prints are fragile, just by the nature that, as I said, the way that they're recorded, it's the perspiration or the oils, sometimes the blood on the ends of our fingers, and then the surfaces, sometimes they're on are rough surfaces, and if they're not in a protected environment, if they're, they can be destroyed by something rubbing across the top or something laid on top of them, so they are very fragile.
And does everyone leave a fingerprint? There's some people that just don't have enough perspiration to leave a print.
That's true. Not everyone leaves a print when they touch a surface.
Okay, and does the surface depend on whether or not you can get a latent print also?
Many times it does. The best surface for leaving a latent print is a non-porous surface that's clean, such as a piece of glass. That's where you see them most often. Surfaces that are rough or dirty naturally just don't, absorb that print as well.
And if a print is left, a latent print, are you always able to identify it even if you have a known print to compare it to?
No, sir. Our crime scene investigators are trained to lift anything that resembles a fingerprint. When they process at a crime scene, they'll lift anything that has friction-rich detail, and they'll submit those to our latent unit. Many times, because of the nature of the print, the environment, what we'll get will be prints that we call no value. When we examine them under a magnifying glass, we'll see that they've been destroyed either by the environment or someone touching on top of the surface.
Okay, and if several people handle an item, will you normally be able to get all their prints off that particular item?
Not necessarily, because when you have that happening, it's many times prints on top of prints.
Okay. And I'll ask, did you receive a latent prints lifted by Felicia Evans to a dorm room in Gillette Hall at Vanderbilt University?
I did.
Okay. Could you hand her Exhibit 25, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you compare those to the known prints of the four defendants in this case, Mr. Batey, Mr. Banks, Mr. McKenzie, Mr. Vandenburg?
I did.
Okay. And what were your results?
Of each of the defendants?
Yes. Or just what you found, obviously.
Okay. Of the prints lifted, the prints on the door and doorknob, interior side of the room. There were no identifications made to any of the 4 individuals. Of the prints on the Magnum condom box in the dresser drawer, there were no identifications made to Mr. Cory Batey. There were no identifications made to Mr. Brandon Vandenburg. There was a print that was identified as the left thumb print of Mr. Jaborian McKenzie, and there was a second print that was identified as the right thumb fingerprint of Mr. Brandon Banks.
And was there another print on that particular lift also that was not identifiable or was not useful?
There was a no value impression. Yes, sir.
And you had no elimination prints from anyone to compare to the door, did you?
No, sir, we did not.
Could you just explain for the jury what an elimination print is?
Yes, sir. Occasionally we'll receive elimination prints of people known to be at a scene. Say, for example, if your home was burglarized, sometimes our officers will collect your prints because we know if you've touched the surface, we want to eliminate your prints from those that are collecting.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for you, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination.
I guess I probably should make a report of the specific, Your Honor.
Might be a good idea. And that would be exhibit number 45.
You have another copy of your report, or do we need a copy of that one?
Can I see what we're marking also, Your Honor?
Okay.
Please.
Mr. Robinson, see. Go ahead, Counselor.
Ms. Hooper, I believe you said you were given a controlled set of prints, and they were from Mr. Vandenburg, is that right?
That's correct.
And Mr. Batey?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Banks?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. McKenzie?
Yes, sir.
And you don't have any information as we sit here today that any of these individuals have non-secretor cells, right?
I would not have that information.
Okay. And the condom box that you printed, it was a flat surface, right?
Well, I didn't print it.
Okay. Miss Evans printed it?
Yes, sir.
Is that right? And then provided the card to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Obviously, a surface that is suitable for lifting prints?
Boxes, generally they're smooth. Yes.
Okay. And from your testimony, a positive identification was made, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was we know that from your work, we know that Mr. McKenzie touched the box, the condom box, right?
That's correct.
And we know that Mr. Banks touched the box, right?
That's correct.
And there's no proof that Mr. Batey ever touched that box, correct?
There were no prints identified to Mr. Batey. That's correct.
Okay. Now, were you given any prints from a Mr. Mac Prelue?
No, sir.
Do you know who Mac Prelue is?
No, sir, I do not.
And you don't know whether he was in the room or out of the room during this alleged incident?
I don't have any knowledge of that.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
You read it right? Thank you, Mr. I thought you were retired. Do you have any other none today? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to go to the hotel a little early today, and I'll get to go home a little early today. I want you to enjoy your evening. I think they brought a whole new set of movies today, right? They did. All right. Enjoy your evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. All right.